Big Safety Podcast with Vance and Bart.
It's a trap. There's no comfort fitting in a fake safety that no one believes in.
So, Bart, I want to start off this episode saying, AOC, you're wonderful. You've done everything right. We love you. Don't listen to any more of the podcast because it's just going to be fluff like that. All right. Now we can
Nice.
start talking.
I think she'll appreciate that
Right.
because you're not only applauding her, but you're saving her some time.
Right. That's my goal. She's got a lot of saving the world.
She's
And,
very busy.
What is the democratic socialist utopia to build? So
She's very, very busy.
get back to work, sweetheart.
Oh. That's probably not going to fly. Good thing she stopped listening.
Good thing. So one of your fellow West Coasters, I believe, podcast host, queer a la mode or a la carte or
Oh,
I don't something.
okay, yeah. Queer a la mode.
Right.
From Twitter.
He's upset with AOC the other day, I hear. I haven't heard what he said, but I have heard a breakdown of it. Basically his discontentment with AOC or whatever disagreement that he had and that he wanted to voice his opinion on was she was asked about Palestine and Israel relations, something to do with that, a question about that. And I did hear her response and it was very generic. It was something like, in today's society, we should all something, very, it would fit any question along those lines, and it just sounded to me like she didn't know what they were talking about. And she didn't want to say anything wrong or whatever. But I think this fella, being that she is supposedly the democratic socialist hero, icon, ringleader in today, she's definitely the most famous person to say that's what she is, right? In the government today. He was disappointed. He wanted to see more condemning Israel for, the treatment of the Palestinians. And I must say that I would like to see more of that too, from anybody, but I was under no illusion that AOC was concerned about that. But I believe this fellow was upset and needed to voice that. And somehow this became a threat or received as a threat, and the law enforcement was called to this person's home. Another detail I've heard is that they didn't. He was under this alias. He didn't list from what I can tell, he didn't list his name. So we all know there's video facial recognition that they say they're not using in law enforcement, but we all know that's not true, right? I would hope that nobody is under the illusion that our government is not invading our privacy. But
Now-
anyway,
Now,
what's up?
Now that said, I just I think it might be worth noting that his identity is somewhat known. I think some folks know who he is, but you're saying that he had police officers come to his house.
Right, to question him. Apparently, they deemed him a credible threat to AOC's safety. Which all of the other stuff aside, I find it funny that like these armed thugs can come to your property when you're in your home on your property, come up to your door and deem you a threat to somebody across the country when they're invading your private property. But
so did he threaten her in some way? Because, like I say, I've followed him a bit, and he, he talks about underwhelming takes by some of the people on the left. I think he's underwhelmed by Biden and a lot of the quote unquote left, and even thinks that Bernie is not quite there. But did he threaten her, or like?
I have not heard nor seen any takes saying that he threatened her. Now, I do believe he did speak out strongly against the way that she treated a question like that, but I don't think there was any threats. No. If I'm proven wrong, I mean, whatever. Whatever, right? I mean, even if there was a threat, you would have to deem it a credible threat. And from what I can tell, this guy is not somebody who has shown any credible threats of violence against anybody that he's spoken out against. So,
Right. So she's
credible part is out the window, even if he did say something.
So she sent police officers to his house because he attacked her by way of maybe a threat.
Yeah.
At best, at worst, him saying
attack on her character.
Yeah.
So you've got this democratic socialist side of the left that has been growing in popularity, and every time that you hear somebody on the right say socialism doesn't work, look at Stalin, look at Mao, look at whatever, right? They always say this is different. This is democratic socialism is different. It's not authoritarian. So I want to bring it to all these people's attention that this is exactly the same as Mao, Stalin, whatever. This is authoritarian. This is a congresswoman. There are hundreds of Congress people, she's not that big of a deal. And she's sending armed thugs to private property when they speak out or criticize her in any way. So this is not showing those people who may be critical of socialism that there is a non-authoritarian way of doing that, because you are the face, AOC. Whether you like it or not, that's what you've made yourself. So, and I would also say, AOC, learn about stuff like Palestine. If you want to consider yourself fringe, the one thing that the real democratic socialist and the real anarcho-capitalist agree on is these stupid wars and oppressing people through state power is wrong. And you should know that. You should be able to talk about that.
So if she sends folks, is this supposed to be some sort of, like, what's the idea here? Like, what's her goal? Like, if she sends someone to go to his house, like, what is the goal for him to get online and like send a message? Or
I think it's just a threat. It's like even if he gets out that she did it, it's it's a message to other people. If you're going to toe the party line, you need to toe the party line. Don't speak out against me. Like, I'm trying to rise to power here. You're not going to F that up for me. That's what I think it is. I mean, it's just like the police officer in your neighborhood. They nobody's dog's gonna shit in my grass. Because I'm a cop. That whole, I don't know. It's just being in a place of authority and showing it. That's what I think that is.
so let's say she gets what she wants, and the police go there and rile this person up enough to do something truly illegal,
Mm-hmm.
and then arrest them.
Mm-hmm.
How does that not serve to make this person a martyr?
Well, I think the goal is just like with fascism and communism, which we're in now, but you have to make the population scared to speak out, right? And then you have to take power fast. When you do that, you don't want the uprising to happen and then you not make it. I think it's a timing game. I also think sometimes they're just feeling the waters, right? Seeing what they can get away with, what the people will speak out against and what they won't, right? That's why they're always testing. That's why they're always moving forward with power, because they test. Oh, I can get away with that now. They do it, right? And then it becomes a norm. But this isn't a knock on her any more than it is on any of the other people on the right or the left. It's, if you do this, whether you're trying to claim that you're a soft form of socialism or somebody who believes in freedom, like, this isn't neither of those things. This is something that we don't want. Um, it makes it hard for me to see a way um a way out of this, like a way for America to get out of this. I think it's too far. I mean, the fact that a congressperson can do that, somebody across the country, it, I don't I don't think there's any way back from that. I think it's just got to collapse or split up. The country's got to split up or something. Because I don't want there to be a war, but this is the kind of shit that makes people angry. I don't want violence. I just want to be free. I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there that just want freedom or liberty or whatever word you have for it. But I also think there's a lot of people out there that want or think they want what AOC is selling. So, I mean, what do you do? I think the best outcome would be to separate.
Now, has she made any announcements or anything as far as like being aware that this took place? Like, is she denying that she ordered it? Is she saying, do you know?
I mean, it's been on the news, or multiple outlets have been reporting on it all day. I haven't heard anybody say that she denied it. I think she'd probably more likely try to justify her fear. Seems to be her MO, right? When she talks about the so-called insurrection of unarmed people taking selfies in the Capitol, she she played that up, why she was so afraid of these evil people, and made up all kinds of shit about that, saying how scared she was hiding behind a desk in a place that she wasn't at, but whatever. I think that would probably be her move, but I'm just speculating, just from past
Well, I think because she has been so iffy on police and defunding them and all that stuff, especially with so I haven't heard this story, but I have heard the story about the gentleman in Minnesota who was shot by police recently. So I'm sure that she will probably deny it, that she sent it, because it would be really easy for her to just say, I didn't order that. Or even just have a representative say that she didn't, because you said a lot of outlets are covering this, because I'm sure they would just want it to go away so that she doesn't have to make a statement.
Yeah, well, when I say it's been reported on all day, I mean like
any outlet you would read.
Yeah, I don't mean anything mainstream. I don't expect anything on the mainstream to do anything but carry the card for the establishment, whether it's left or right. So I imagine that Fox News will cover it and then have a spin on it where they don't come to the conclusion that there's anything wrong with the authority to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like Fox News will say like AOC is dumb and a liar, and not say, why do we live in a place where she can do that?
Yeah,
like,
so
even if like there's going to be, Hitler was going to be born anyway. Hitler was born. If Hitler didn't have power, he would have just been a grumpy dude with a weird mustache. And we
A
could
grump-
still, yeah, we could still name our kids Adolf. But now we can't.
A grumpy artist.
Right. Unaccomplished. Right.
So I guess that does raise that question then. So what is that measure of safety necessary? Because let's, for sake of argument, say that this is not a police issue. Let's say that the police are in place and they're a private company and they're held to some sort of a standard, and someone believes that they have received a credible threat, and they send private security to go assess this threat.
I think you would have to deem it. You would have to show a ton of evidence that it was credible in a society like that, because the company would not want to do it unless it was really credible, because they're going to be liable for invading somebody's private property if they're wrong. I mean, I think that's the big thing about it, is it's private property. So, like, in a world like that, private property means something. Therefore, you're not going to come onto their property and call them a threat. They haven't even left their property to do anything, right? You've left your property to come to them.
Well, let's give a little bit of space here, right? So if they visit him at his home and he's, inside of his house there, or apartment, condo, whatever it is,
Right.
even if he doesn't own it and he's just living with someone or renting, regardless, the box that he considers his domicile, if he's inside of that, there is a certain understanding that you can knock on someone's door, though, right? As an inquiring mind.
Yeah. I'm imagining you could knock and ask.
Do you think
if you
that's
wanted to,
what?
right?
Do you think that's what happened, though?
Well, I mean, you just, I maybe, but there was an armed. It was armed law, government lawmen that they have the monopoly on violence. Like, you can't defend yourself against them. That's the difference, right? Where if it's just somebody coming up to ask you, right? Like another normal person like me or you, go up to him and say, "Hey, man, were you like, are you going to do something to AOC?" Like, if I get violent with him, he's got as much right or more right to get violent back with me.
Because it's his property, it's his home,
Right.
It's stand your ground and all that, right?
Right. But
there is no stand your ground with the cops.
Police officer, it's completely different. So that's the difference. So, I mean, yeah, maybe their intentions were right, but they were coming from a place of violent monopoly. So the intimidation factor, the violence under threat was there with their presence.
Right.
I will kill you if you don't consent or, whatever, become subservient, whatever terminology you want to use, right? I can and will kill you. It's there. It walks around with them. And I will kill you, and there's nothing you or your family can do about it. Or a passerby on the street. I mean, look at George Floyd. We're sitting here watching this trial talking about, are they going to riot over whatever? There were people standing there yelling, "Get off of him, he can't breathe," all around that cop. You could hear him saying it in the video. But the threat of that man's violence and the recourse that would happen if they kicked him or punched him off of that man was so much so that those people screaming, crying, watch that man die, and any of them could have kicked him. But it was what would have happened after that, right? Or if it was the normal citizen doing that, right? You could. I know I've done it. I've been involved in a third party in a fight where I felt like somebody is taking it way further than it needed to go, and I've laid a guy out just to what I felt save another guy's life, and that's all it was. It was that, and then we fired the guys that was at work, right? And nobody went to prison for life. Nobody died. It was two men having an argument, but there was no monopoly on violence with any pawn or player in that game there. So the outcome was, for the most part, positive, or as positive as it could be in that situation.
So there's a little bit of the NSA-ish piece that you alluded to here. I think his name and info is somewhat public, so that it might have been easy for them to find him. But admittedly, I wouldn't know where he lived. So I'm curious about them having the ability to find him as a person from an online persona, and also just approach him at his home, which is nowhere near the Capitol.
No, I mean, what I understand, he's in California.
So,
right?
Yeah. So what police came if it wasn't the Capitol Police?
I believe it was the Capitol Police, which is really strange in my eyes, right?
Wait, what?
I mean, the first story I heard about it, the Capitol Police contacted the local police to him, right? But then every other description of the situation that I heard after that through my news outlets, it was the Capitol Police that actually showed up.
I mean, honestly, I'm trying to get a little bit to the devil of the details there, but even then, I don't know that it really matters, the distinction, right? Like, whether the Capitol Police sent local authorities or the Capitol Police went out, both, one is just more complicated than the other. Neither are really appropriate here. I'm just
I
trying
think
to
I
figure
actually
out
feel
the
worse
source.
about the proper channels. I think I feel worse about them contacting the local police and then the local police doing the bidding, right? Because, like, that's another group of people that could have said no. There's no reason.
It's another level of sign off, right? It's another level of someone who could have been like, wait, what did he do? He tweeted at her?
Yeah, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Like, no, I'm not going over there. So,
But then again, so we have done this to ourselves a little bit, right? So with the insurrection, with the January 6th, I believe it was, the Capitol riots, right? With
yeah, if you want to call it that.
So with this event, we've set a foundation for anyone who tweets anything against a politician is considered a credible threat. So these police might not have known the content of the tweet. So maybe this is happening with some regularity. It's just that this one is notable because it's someone who doesn't fall under the right wing umbrella.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, that's not a defense on the policy. I don't imagine that that's what you're getting at, right? You're not. If this is happening more, this is happening a lot more.
It's happening more to the
about.
right.
Like,
so what are you worried about?
Like, I mean, yeah, I think it's happening a lot. I mean, I know it's happening a lot. I mean, as soon as they come up with the red flag laws, I mean, it was what, 4 days or something, right after they came up with red flag law in what, Maryland, Minnesota, Maryland, one of those M places, right?
Michigan.
Where they shot and killed the man because they woke him up at 4 a.m. He was confused. Bunch of people yelling. Some old man. A bunch of people yelling at his door and banging. He come to the door with his gun on his hip. It wasn't drawn or anything. They shot him dead right in his doorstep because somebody called the law and said, no, he hasn't broke any laws, but we don't feel like he mentally should have a gun. So they killed him. That's what you're advocating for, if you're okay with any of this. It's not about saving. People like me aren't out to save the people who are just about to go shoot up a school with their trench coats on. People like me are trying to save those kids before they ever get mad enough to do that. And by giving them freedom, they're locked in a world. Those kind of kids that we're all afraid of, who are screaming guns need to be taken away from law-abiding citizens for some reason because of them. They were locked in a world where they had to go to a public school, where they didn't fit in, where they weren't getting what they needed. They didn't have it at home. They didn't have it at school. They didn't fit in anywhere. And they were angry and they were going through puberty. And it's fucking weird, man, when you're that age. And I add this whole COVID thing on top of it. I can't imagine what these kids are going through right now. And the answer to them and their problems isn't taking guns away from people who have guns. It's stopping this cubicle treatment of our kids where we are all sending them to the same schools to learn the same things, to be the same yes people, to be, I'm sorry, but humans aren't built that way. Some people can thrive in that situation, but a lot of us can't. And these kids are going through a change in their life, and they might not have a good home life, and they might not have this, or they might not have that. Their kid, their dad might be in prison because he had a voluntary interaction with another human and sold him some drugs, and we're talking about let's
Some
pull
plants,
guns away. Let's take guns from people. Let's take self-defense weapons away from people and then give them this so-called protection, the police, in lieu of it. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. And we're not even addressing the fucking kids here. Like, we sit here and saying we're all about the kids. We're not addressing what the problem is. And it's your fucking central planning. Like, these kids don't want you to dictate what their life is. They want to pick something. They want to choose. They want to feel like they contributed to where their life is going. And we're saying, no, you can pick the vocational lane or the cubicle lane, what the fuck ever, right? Like you're gonna work at a factory or you're gonna work here. It's pathetic, man. These kids feel hopeless. So, and then bad ideas fester. We all had bad ideas when we were that age. Not, I hope not to the level that these kids who shot up schools had, but I had some pretty fucking bad ideas.
I did too.
I was violent sometimes when I shouldn't have been. I was angry. I didn't have the respect for earned property that I have today. I made mistakes. But I never let anybody tell me who I had to be. But that created a lot of conflict in my life. I had to fight every day about that with some person that I was supposed to look up to, whether it be in school, at home, anywhere. But most kids, they hit too many walls. Their parents never say, yeah, you're right. That adult was wrong. They just eventually feel hopeless. And we're talking about taking guns away and these police that show up at your house when AOC is upset at you, or your savior. That's not a world that these kids want to grow up in. At least not those ones. I think there was a time that we could have saved those trench coat mafia kids, and they might have, after puberty or whatever, they might have gotten into the other side of whatever that was they were going through. They might have become very, productive people in society, as opposed to what happened. I'm not saying let's not condemn what they did, or let's call them good people. they crossed that line to being bad people. But they were also young, and society had a part in that. We all had a part in that. Parents, people, media, everybody who's advocated for teacher unions, all of it. Teacher unions are a lot of the reason why we don't have any type of school choice, because they like that power, and they're entrenched in the public school system. So it might seem minuscule, right? The evil that the unions do is so little, but look the big outcome of what has happened from it. Look at electing George Bush. I mean, if we didn't elect George Bush and we didn't go back to war in Iraq, do you think Donald Trump would have ever been president? I don't.
Hard to say.
I don't think that we would have gotten to that point. I think that there would have been, without all these wars and without all this spending and without all this, sucking the wealth out of the people, I don't think that we would have been to this anger point that we are today, or the tipping point that we are today. There's consequences that are beyond monetary. And I know us libertarians, you talk to me, anarcho-capitalists, all the time, right? And we focus on the Fed and the money because you can follow the money and see who has the power and see why we're doing these evil things, and that's why we get hyper focused on it, right? To an autistic level, right?
It's easy to track because of a lot of the things that you're talking about, these other consequences, these externalities. They're a bit harder to track, a bit harder to put, into a quantitative way. They're a bit harder to put metrics around. So I understand that. Yeah, money makes sense. It's just math.
Right. And then, we get focused on that, but we need to understand, or the right, the left, the people I'm talking to today that were one of those two things that are, okay, maybe the system doesn't work anymore. Like, we're not here to hurt people. We have an enemy. And we are going to fight, and it's going to be brutal, whether it's physical or hopefully peaceful. And that enemy is government, the monopoly on violence that we have today. Definition of government in a voluntary sense, I have no desire to fight that. I mean, there are some definitions of government that do include a voluntary government. I have no desire to fight that. If you voluntarily become part of a dictatorship that you can leave, you know what I mean? Like, I have no quarrel with that, right? But we have this enemy, and it's going to be brutal. I mean, think about it. The little bit of traction you get. I mean, Scott Peterson. That's his name. Yeah.
Which one are you talking about? The guy who killed his wife?
No. Then I'm talking about somebody else. Who the fuck did they Red Skull, the Red Skull, Captain America's arch enemy. They have, now that Lee's dead, Disney owns it, and they've made it like this ultra left thing or what. Like, they've named one of these conservative speakers, maybe even partially libertarian speakers, that's famous on YouTube or whatever. They've modeled the Red Skull directly after him. Like, it's not even hidden. That is who he is. Instead of Hitler now, it's him.
Interesting.
I'll have to look it up. Michael Malice was just on his show, and he's been making jokes about it. So he's taking it well.
I probably would too. Okay, well then that's something to look into.
Right. Yeah.
Whoever it is that we're basing he's like a conservative commentator. It's like a YouTuber.
Yeah, I think he's like a right-leaning. I think he's a conservative-leaning libertarian type guy.
Interesting. Okay.
He's not a libertarian, but he's like as close as a right guy can be. So,
says less government, at least in his words.
Yeah. No, I mean, he really speaks out against big government. I just think he has some sort of blue-pilled belief that government will restrict itself. If the right person gets in office, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So then maybe that's the that's a discussion for next week then. So, what should we take away this week?
AOC, we love you.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, AOC, you are the best.
You are. Keep on keeping on there, sweet darling.
It's a trap. There's no